Great, thank you, Yanisa. Sorry about the delay there, everyone. I was looking for the unmute button on my end. Again, as Yanisa mentioned, I'm Ash Beatty. I'm a managing director at Public Spend Forum. I'm joined today by one of my colleagues named Connor Paskoff. Connor and I will be walking us through today's webinar. And thanks everyone for attending. Okay, so to get started, just one moment. There we go. To get started, just a few notations on what we're going to be covering today. So the focus of today's webinar is on the augmented reality, virtual reality, also known as extended reality. That's a lot of words to describe one industry, but it is an emerging market. And a lot of the ways that this particular industry or market is referred to, they're being augmented, pun was deliberate. And so, yeah, naming of this market is also evolving a bit, but we wanted to make sure we capture some of the most commonly used terms to describe this market and industry. So AR/VR, AKA extended reality. For purpose of today's webinar, I'm just going to say extended reality, so I don't have to keep saying all of those words again. So today we're going to focus on describing and developing some intuition behind what is the extended reality market. We'll discuss the market map, which is ultimately the focus of today's webinar, is to take a look and see how this market is structured and how the players in this market, meaning the suppliers, are organized and what their capabilities are and how they vary. So we'll be taking a very high-level overview of the market map today. We'll also talk very briefly about some use cases and demand, meaning how do buyers go about engaging this particular industry? What are oftentimes their needs? How do their needs vary? And then finally, we'll conclude by everything that we cover in the slides here in the webinar, we're going to see it in action on the actual GovShop supplier discovery platform. It's actually a supplier and contract discovery platform, but those are our focus areas for today, those 4 points. Obviously, this content is geared toward both government programs and contracting procurement professionals, as well as small businesses, startups, and companies that participate actively within this industry. Does that sound good, Connor?
Sounds great.
Okay. Before I dive into the agenda topics that I have outlined here, and Yanisa, like you mentioned, as questions come up, please feel free to let me and Connor know about the questions. I'll be sure to pause between every slide, so there's plenty of opportunity for you to let us know if there's some point we should be hitting on more precisely or any questions that come up. Great. So 3 points I'd like to make before we dive into today's topic. First, I'd like to thank our sponsor for today's webinar, Ivalua. Ivalua has a complete unified source-to-pay suite of software and solutions. So Ivalua is a software solutions company. You can visit them at ivalua.com. And of course, GovShop.com. That is our supplier discovery and contract discovery resource guide. It's free to use for everyone. Anyone can get on there and start using GovShop and start performing searches. Now, GovShop is built specifically for the government in mind, with government needs in mind, and an understanding of the public sector procurement process. And so when you get on GovShop and you start using it, you'll know what I mean by that. There's lots of ways to search for suppliers and contracts. And also within GovShop, we are constantly evolving the functionality to take into account all kinds of needs from the public sector. So for example, if you wanted to filter suppliers based on set-aside status, small business status, you can do that on GovShop, and lots more beyond just that. In short, I will point this out, we have hundreds of thousands of suppliers on GovShop. They cover a breadth of products and services categories that are commonly bought by government. And we have lots of suppliers on there with an ongoing effort to enhance supplier profiles. We are focusing very much on emerging markets, emerging technology markets, such as extended reality and others. Others include things like learning technologies, agile, unmanned aerial systems, and more. And so we're building out supplier profiles to present comprehensive supplier profiles on GovShop. There are many ways you can search for suppliers and contracts on GovShop. You can search by keyword. You can search by the more common category codes such as PSC, NAICS, NIGP. You can also search by contract vehicle. I will show a couple of examples of that in the demo once we get toward the end of this webinar. By the way, I should have mentioned this in the beginning. We're going to keep this to 30 minutes or so. If there's lots of questions, we can keep going, but we've really designed this webinar to be 30 minutes, to be very succinct in its nature and to make the best use of your time. Great. And finally, our company name, as you may already know, is Public Spend Forum. So GovShop is built by Public Spend Forum. You can visit Public Spend Forum at publicspendforum.net. There's actually a link to GovShop off of our company main page website. If you can see my cursor here toward the upper right-hand part of the website pictorial, there's a link to GovShop right there. And of course, you can go to GovShop directly. It's govshop.com. In short, Public Spend Forum, if you were to visit our website, you'll find that it's a market intelligence platform, broadly speaking, lots of information about suppliers and markets and best practices in procurement. So please do visit publicspendforum.net. So diving into today's topic then, I wanted to begin with a brief description of what is the extended reality market. And rather than, I thought I'd make this more pictorial and less words, even though there's quite a few words on here now that I look at the slide. But in essence, this industry provides a range of solutions to support all kinds of end use applications, ranging from training to maintenance and just-in-time technical instruction, in support of repair of equipment and other industrial environments. It's also used extensively in the healthcare industry to diagnose, as well as help healthcare providers provide treatment, especially in remote settings, both remote and on-site settings. It's also being used even more so very extensively in various planning contexts, such as around visual simulation, remote collaboration, especially as it involves more complex data sets requiring more intensive collaboration. So it's used in a variety of different ways, both in the private sector and in government agencies. It's most definitely a emerging technology area and industry which is rapidly evolving in terms of its offerings and capabilities. Before I keep going, Connor, I was going to ask you something. There's a very obvious use of extended reality, which has been around for decades actually, and therefore it has a legacy background and legacy infrastructure behind it. I'm guessing you do know what it is, but would you mind pointing it out to everybody what I did not put on this slide?
Yes, absolutely. So one thing that you mentioned as a legacy is flight simulation. It's been going on for years now. Since the first commercial airlines. So that is a major talking point and a major application that has been going on for a long time now.
Yeah, very good. And it is, when it first came out, it was very legacy in nature. And obviously the underlying technology behind supporting flight simulation applications of it has evolved considerably to be very much in line with the various types of examples that I'm showing here. But yep, that's exactly what I was thinking of. I thought it would be more interesting for me to put these more emerging applications on here. And a lot of you folks may be familiar with these too, but I think intuitively everybody was familiar with flight simulation. So great, great. Let me keep going. I'd like to introduce now, before we get to the market map, I wanted to just take a step back and point out that as we took a close look and began to research this emerging technology industry, we came to quickly see that the various suppliers that participate in this space, you can organize them in 3 high-level buckets, and we'll break these down into even greater detail, and you'll see that in the market map in just a few moments. But very basically, the suppliers participate in one or more of these 3 areas. So you have some suppliers that are very much specialized in providing just the hardware aspect of extended reality. And so by that, I'm referring to things like head-mounted displays. We saw that in the pictures on the previous slide, I think, glasses, helmets, as well as things like gloves, control inputs, tracking, sensors, cameras. So all the hardware components. that you can buy separately if you already have an AR/VR or extended reality solution in place, and you just need to augment and support a greater number of users, then you may just be in the market for buying, say, 20 more head-mounted displays, for example, right? And so that's the hardware part of the equation on the far left. In the middle, we have software. And so once again, you might already have a basic infrastructure in place, and you're simply looking to maybe buy a software development kit so that you can develop more customized software, or you may be looking for off-the-shelf software and other types of off-the-shelf content, such as games and applications that you may want to purchase. Finally, on the far right, if you're just getting started in your journey of AR/VR, then you're probably going to want to look for suppliers that have expertise in your particular end-use solution. I've teed up a few examples here, such as education and training, emergency services, construction. You'll notice that a lot of these are very much industry-oriented in many cases, not all cases, but in many cases. Education is an example which education and training cuts across industries, but in many cases, you will find that there are suppliers that specialize in specific industries and in developing and bringing to the table a complete end-to-end solution to support your needs. So important to start thinking about the supply market in this way. This market, by the way, I'll point out, consists of a combination of established companies, fast-growing startups, emerging companies, so all of the above. And as I mentioned a moment ago, some of which are very specialized in the one or two of these segments, such as maybe hardware only, software only, whereas others have developed a deep expertise in meeting industry-specific complete solutions. And that would be the far right segment on this slide. Connor, any comments to add?
No, I think you covered it all perfectly there.
Okay, very good. While I was by and large talking about the supply side and speaking to the slide, we find something very similar, which I think I have been alluding to on the demand side, so on the buyer side. So like I mentioned just a moment ago on the previous slide, different buyers are at different stages in their journey of implementing an AR/VR or extended reality solution. Some already have something in place, and they're simply looking to augment with more hardware, more software, more applications, maybe a software development kit, while others may be looking to begin from the ground up. And therefore, if you're looking for a complete solution, you really want to target those suppliers that have the expertise in the specific vertical area, be it military, be it healthcare, transportation, etc., that best meets your needs. So we wanted to point out that this basic hardware, software, end-use solution segmentation works on the supply side in terms of what are the supplier's capabilities and offerings and how do they vary. It also works on the demand side, depending upon where buyers are in their journey of implementing an AR/VR or extended reality solution. Connor, I know you've been working with various public sector organizations in understanding the needs and delineating the differences in their needs and lining them up to the different types of suppliers that can best meet their needs. Anything that you wanted to maybe touch on any of these example use cases?
Yeah, I could talk about these really quickly. So let's just start with the AR/VR and hardware. So in this situation, the Department of the Army, they currently already have a solution in place. They have the training already been set up. And in this situation, they're specifically looking for just one headset and two controllers so they can add one more person to the training environment. In the software, for this example, for the synthetic training environment, right now the Army's pretty unhappy with what they have currently. The software and training, it's non-realistic, it's not very seamless. It doesn't really track the data as well as they need, so they can't produce results that they're looking for. So they're really just looking for new capabilities, but they currently have all the headsets, the control inputs that could be firearms, different types of vehicles, anything that they have currently in the hardware situation they have, and they want to upgrade their software. And then finally, for that final case for the end use solution, the Department of the Air Force, they're looking for a full service virtual reality training system. So they're looking for a complete hardware package, which includes a gaming laptop, headsets, trackers, gun holsters, 3D printed pistols, different cameras, and everything. And then also on top of that, they want software items. So they want, you know, a reality-based scenario. They want a content platform. They want a software development kit where they, after it's implemented, they can kind of change it however they want. And then on top of that, they want 1 year of a full service. So in case they have any issues, someone will be there to fix the problems, teach people how to use the equipment, and really get the full service out of it. So that's kind of how these three, we broke them down into these categories. Ash, would you like to add anything else? Because I think that's all.
That's perfect, Connor. That really highlights and underscores examples of different buyers being at different stages in their journey in either enhancing their existing extended reality solution or starting from scratch and developing something comprehensive. So that really underscores the point. So for everyone's benefit, we went through these two slides and really hit hard the segments of hardware versus software versus end-use solution, because I'm going to go on to the next slide, to the market map. We're actually building off of this delineation, which reflects the supply side and the demand side. And this is an eye chart. It's not meant to be read. I wanted to first put up just a pictorial of the market map that we've developed. And this is an ongoing effort, incidentally. This is not something which is set in stone. This is a first initial cut of looking at the industry, looking at the demand side, and then piecing it together in a way that makes sense with a specific eye toward aligning suppliers by capability and by offering area so that they can be easily searched by government buyers on GovShop. So we did all of this with that goal in mind, to enhance the search experience for public sector buyers, to identify the most relevant suppliers for their AR/VR extended reality needs. And all I'm really highlighting here on this slide is that the market map was fundamentally developed with the hardware versus software versus end-use solution alignment with the suppliers. Why don't we take a closer look? This is an eye chart. It's not really meant for me to speak to any one of those bubbles specifically, but just take a note here that this follows the hardware, software, end-use solution segmentation. And I'm going to take a look at each one of these three areas separately. So the first, we're just zooming in on the hardware side. So what I'm showing here essentially is we're starting with hardware, and then we're breaking down hardware to the next level of subsegments below it. And so naturally, there's different types of hardware that you could buy for a AR/VR solution. And so that's what some of the boxes here do that run around that hardware oval that you see in the center. We're also indicating how many total suppliers we have in GovShop for AR/VR hardware. And the total is 75, but depending upon what you're buying, be it head-mounted displays or gloves or control inputs or tracking sensors and cameras, right? There's different numbers, there's different counts of suppliers that run around. So all of this data that you see here is in GovShop, and we'll see that in the demo. And I think that all I really wanted to highlight here was the level of detail that this breaks hardware down into for the hardware super segment, if you will. Breaks it down into the subsegments with clear delineation as to which suppliers do what. And obviously you can have overlapping suppliers right across the hardware subsegments, even across hardware, software, and end-use solutions, you're going to have overlapping suppliers. But ultimately, from a search standpoint, to enable public sector buyers to better search the suppliers that best meets their needs, what you want to do is you want to first, figure out where you are with your demand. Are you looking for just hardware, just software, a combination of the two, or an end-use solution? And then, of course, dig in and see which suppliers might be able to meet your needs. Again, this is all about supplier discovery. This isn't supplier qualification or validation in any way. By qualification and validation, I mean the things that you do after you go deeper through your procurement process into doing a post-RFI, doing an RFP, et cetera, all the way down to making an award or awards. So this was a hardware breakdown. I can briefly show software and end-use solutions, and then I do most definitely want to get to the GovShop demo and show you where all of this is in GovShop. Good, moving on then. So software, similar breakdown. I won't be redundant, but it's pretty much the exact same breakdown. The software segment breaks down into multiple subsegments. Those are the boxes that you see around the software oval. And once again, we're showing here that we have a total of 216 suppliers for AR/VR that provide software specifically. And of course, the counts vary depending upon what type of software we're looking for, be it software development kit, for which there's 38 suppliers. That's over here if you can see my cursor. There's 3D software suppliers, of which there's 83. Obviously, we can't list them all here, but they're most definitely listed on GovShop, and so on. So you can go around and see content and platform suppliers, there's 92. We've listed just a few here. Games and app suppliers, there's 110, and so on. Image capture scanning suppliers over here, there's 55. And then finally, moving on to end-use solutions. This is where things get fairly robust, just by nature of this segment, end-use solutions. And as I mentioned before, in many cases or most cases, it lines up by industry, not necessarily all. Some of these things cut across industries, like education and training will cut across industries. Transportation oftentimes cuts across industries as well. But the point here is that if you want an end-use solution, if you want a supplier that can implement a complete solution for you, you're probably already cognizant that suppliers specialize in different industries, in one or more industries. In total, let's see, end-use solution suppliers, we have 213 in GovShop, and they break down accordingly here, just as the numbers show as you go around the boxes around end-use solutions. Some of these suppliers cover more than one end-use solution area, by the way, and some of them are just highly specialized into a single end-use solution. Connor, anything you'd like to add?
Nope, I think you covered it pretty perfectly there.
Okay, good. I think I took a little bit more time than I wanted to for that part, because I do want to go on to the demo. Yanisa, let me pause for a second. Are there any issues or points or questions that you think I should be addressing?
No questions just yet. Let's continue.
Okay, very good. We're going to move on to the GovShop demo, and you can see exactly where everything is in GovShop. So let me switch out of here. I already have it teed up, I believe, right over here. Looks like I have two tabs open. Okay, Connor, can you, oh, wait, there we go, good. Connor, can you see the GovShop main page?
Yes.
Okay, good, good. So let me begin. This is the main page for GovShop. It's govshop.com. I realize this says govshop.publicspendforum.net. That's because I came over here first to the company webpage, and I clicked on GovShop, so it just displays a slightly different web address when I do it through the company website, but it is govshop.com. And let me just very quickly go in and very simply type in augmented reality. I could have just typed in AR/VR, and I very likely would have gotten the same results. What I'd like to do is point out that you have, without hitting return, I just typed in augmented reality in quotes. And so the immediate search results without hitting return, it shows the initial listing of suppliers, and there's a lot more, obviously. There's a bunch of commodity codes that come up. What I'd like to do is I'd like to take us to our primary PSF, again, that's Public Spend Forum, AR/VR, extended reality, we call it a landing page. So for each one of these emerging technology industries that we're covering, we've created a landing page, which also mirrors the exact segmentation that you saw in the market map. And so this is the main page for AR/VR extended reality for that industry. This left pane over here helps you navigate the page. This is just a quick description of this particular industry. Of course, we have the included commodity codes here, and that's where you see the segments. I just clicked on it, by the way. That's where you see the major segments that we just discussed: end-use solutions, software, hardware. Of course, if I expand on each one of these, you can see the subsegments that we also just very briefly looked at in the PowerPoint presentation. Likewise for software, scrolling down, and likewise for hardware. And if you hover over any of these segments or subsegments, you'll see a count of total suppliers. And of course, you can click on any one of these segments or subsegments to see a lower level landing page, which displays only those suppliers. But before I do that, I'll just keep scrolling down this page and just show you a few more things that are here. So here's the total 272 suppliers for AR/VR extended reality in aggregate. And so these 272 cover, they cut across they could be hardware and or software and or any of the end use solutions. If you wanted to segment down to a specific list, you would simply come back here to the tree and just click up here. Or you could just type in any one of these specific terms in the search box. But before I go to any one of those segments or subsegments, I'd like to click on one of these suppliers' profiles and see and demonstrate what type of information comes up. So once again, you have a navigation pane here to the left that gives you a summary of the different sections of information. Up on top is just a general description of the company itself, followed by contact information down below. This entire section, by the way, is an overview of the company, right up here where my cursor is. And then as we scroll down, we have some basic contact information about the company. Scroll down a little bit more and you'll see some status indicators. In this case, to the far right, I'll call your attention to the government set-aside programs. This particular supplier is woman-owned small business, based on the check mark here. In some cases, you'll find that suppliers have multiple set-aside certifications, obviously. Scroll down a little bit more and you'll see a few of the highlighted products and services that the suppliers put up. There's actually more here, but the top 4 are listed right here in what we can view. If I keep scrolling down, I see a section on past experience. So these are some of the recent work that the supplier may have chosen to highlight. So in this case, we have past experience for augmented reality for drones. And so that's pretty interesting. And a second one over here, which looks like a healthcare past experience for the supplier. If I keep scrolling down, I then finally come up on sections that this one here is the existing contracts. So these are leverageable contracts. On the federal side, these could be federal supply schedules, for example, maybe GWACs, maybe others, depending upon what industry we're talking about. And of course, on the state and local side, it could be a listing of cooperative contracts. So this particular supplier has a federal supply schedule within the PSS schedule. And if I keep scrolling down, you can see any external recognition that the supplier may have received. And let's see if the supplier put any downloadable content. Okay, not yet. They haven't put any downloadable content up here yet. But you can see it's an evolving set of fairly rich data on the supplier itself. This is all about supplier discovery. Obviously, as procurement professionals, your next step then would be to decide which suppliers you want to engage with, maybe begin an RFI process with. And so that's what GovShop is really meant to help you do. It's meant to help you quickly identify the set of suppliers that may most closely match your need in terms of supplier discovery. But really, it's meant to collapse all the time that you might be spending in supplier discovery, in doing days, weeks, possibly even more effort in just understanding who are the suppliers that are out there. I did want to come back here, and I wanted to go back to these commodity codes. I'm sure you all remember the 3 major segments that we've covered: end-use solutions, software, hardware. Let me expand on one of them. Again, if I hover without clicking on any one of these, I'm at the sub-segment level: education, emergency services, and so on. I can see a count of suppliers that's contained therein. This one right here is the healthcare end-use solution subsegment. It says 96 suppliers. I'm going to click on it and see what happens. Okay, so now we are specifically on the page for AR/VR healthcare, and you have a reminder right up here on top that shows you the exact tree within PSF markets that you're in, just in case you forgot, in case you've been clicking around quite a bit. And so if I scroll down, the 96 suppliers that I see here, all of them have been tagged against providing end-use solutions for AR/VR healthcare. So just another example of drilling down into the suppliers that have been tagged with this capability. Connor, any additional points you'd like to make? I just wanted to cover very briefly how to get into GovShop start using it as it lined up with this particular industry that we've been talking about, right? And how to basically see this market map in more practical terms to support supplier discovery and supplier search. And so that was my intention of going from the PowerPoint slides over to the demo here on the GovShop website. Connor, any comments from your perspective?
Nope, you covered it all.
Okay, very good. I did mention this would be 30 minutes unless there was a need for greater discussion, and I am a few minutes over. Yanisa, I just wanted to check back in with you. Any specific questions that have come up?
No specific questions.
Okay, great. And Yanisa, we're going to have this for replay on the on our website, right?
That's correct. So if anyone wants to watch back to take additional notes, the recording will be available.
Okay, great. So the recording will be there. So please share with your colleagues if you think it'll be helpful for them for this particular industry or in general, not just for this industry, for AR/VR, but in general, if you want to learn more about GovShop, you can reach out to us directly. In addition, we have a portfolio of learning videos right on the GovShop website. So you can definitely check out the various videos and tutorials that we have that will help you use GovShop even more effectively and in far greater detail than I went over today. There's so much more we can cover in terms of GovShop itself, how to use it, how to get the most value out of it. So if you do have any questions, please do reach out to us, and we're happy to do demos on a organization by organization basis. Well, great. Thank you everyone for attending. We appreciate you taking the time, and we hope that you got quite a bit out of just this one industry that we covered today on GovShop, AR/VR extended reality. Thank you again, everyone, and have a good day.